Welcome back to another edition of Talon Talk. This is episode 27. In this edition, we are going to be having a first. It's our first video interview in the history of this podcast and our first year of doing this in adherence to social distancing. So enjoy that. We'll transition to the video interview very shortly. We're just going to touch on a few things really quickly off the bat to stay up to date on and to look out for. Continue to stay up to date with any news at UNF Ospreys on Twitter and Instagram, North Florida Ospreys on Facebook, and on our website, unfospreys.com. We're continually posting Osprey Today moments, highlighting notable feats in UNF sports history, as well as other interviews and features. Stay posted for fun social media content with childhood pics of our current athletes, birthday posts, and UNF-specific Zoom backgrounds for download as well. So, speaking of Zoom, let's move on to today's interview. Zoom interview with two members of our Student Athlete Center for Excellence. It's Jenny Barth and Tara Sunquist. Thank you so much, guys, for making time today.
Thanks for having us.
So we kind of talked about this a little bit ago, right off before we got on the recording. Just kind of give a brief introduction of the changes in your department and your daily lives.
So definitely a huge change for our departments, just as with everyone, just becoming virtual and relying on the internet and technology. I joke how we're basically slaves to this now, for better or for worse. But I think it's really forced us to try to be innovative and adjust, and as everyone else is. And I think just remembering that we're all on the same page with just figuring it out together. Our office, we're very face-to-face interactive with students and with our staff and coaches and other staff on campus. So having that taken away has definitely been a big adjustment. And we just are continuously talking about how to make ourselves available, reach out across campus. And I think it is hard too, because sometimes I do feel inundated with emails or texts or phone calls, and you kind of can get buried under that. And I would imagine other people feel the same way. So how do you still continue to communicate, but not make it be overwhelming to others who are receiving that information?
This is Tara. I'm actually sitting in my office right now, and it's really strange just not having any students around. You know, our center is always packed with people, and it's just a really strange feeling to go from a lot of things going on to basically just dead and quiet. And it's just been a challenge and a little bit of a struggle to figure out the best way to connect with our students. And like me personally, I went from maybe being on my phone like 30 minutes a day to now I'm on my phone like 3 and 4 hours just trying to connect with our students. So it's definitely trial and error and figuring out what works and what doesn't and adjusting from there.
What was one of the first things that you guys did when you heard about the news? Like, what was kind of your first action item that like Thursday or Friday?
So one of the things that I did, the mantra I kind of keep saying for myself and with the staff and some of my coworkers too, is just, this is going to end. So how can we continue to keep moving ourselves, our students, our department forward, because to make sure we're in a good spot when things will get back to normal. And so that really was just been our biggest discussion, is how can we do that as a staff and continue to support our students. The first thing I did, a few of us went to get training in Zoom to see, since the university was using it, tutoring's using it, advising's using it, a lot of classes are still using it for like real-time class. So we wanted to stick with consistently what is being used with the university and not give our students something else to have to try to figure out or utilize. So we got training with that, still learning that, Zoom definitely. So really that was like our biggest thing, is breaking down that barrier that is now there because our students aren't with us in person.
Mine was heartbreak, honestly. Just felt so sad for all those spring sports student athletes. As a former student athlete, struggle when you're finally done with your sport. And I couldn't really imagine being done like this, and you work so hard all season to finally be able to compete, and it's like the best time ever. And it was taken away. So really my first reaction was just heartbreak. And then like from a proactive thing, I reached out to all the seniors, spent a good amount of my time last week calling and talking to every single one of my athletes just to check in on them and just see how they were kind of handling this stuff, like mentally and like from a athletic point of view, honestly.
What was kind of the biggest point of emphasis for you guys with students and with professors on just how to maintain a level of excellence academically now?
One of the things we've been doing is with just the following up with them, asking them what their routine is, like what their, because it is a lot to process. I mean, we all have a lot to process, but especially these students who their lives are drastically changed. They're at home now with family. I mean, when I graduated from high school and went to college, I didn't come back home. Like this will be the long, I mean, that's a lot of an adjustment in and of itself. So I think really just trying to help them see that they still have things they have to do for their classes. The professors are also learning this new technology. A lot of them were not on Canvas, so they had to adjust to that. So really just encouraging them to be proactive and to follow up if they had questions. And then really making sure that they knew that help and support was still available. Like I mentioned, tutoring is still happening. The writing center is still open. Obviously, we're still here. I had a student who was like, "Hey, sorry to bother you during the quarantine." I'm like, "I'm working. I'm here for you. Like, don't apologize, you know?" And so just really putting ourselves and reaching out and making sure that coaches knew to communicate that as well to the students. Because there's a lot of questions. I mean, there's still a lot of questions and a lot of things up in the air, but back when this transition first happened, there was a ton of questions. And so we just, any student who reached out, we were so happy to help. And then us reaching out to them too, encouraging them that they're not alone in this, that we're all learning how to, this new normal. And we even started a video series with our staff on Twitter of just, this is our new normal. This is how we're adjusting. This is how we're creating new routines for us to make sure that we're still doing the things that we need to be doing, and just to create some type of normalcy. Because we really all feel like the rug was pulled out from underneath our feet, and we're just trying to dust off and get back to whatever normal looks like.
I think it's important to communicate to our student athletes to keep it simple, keep doing the things that you were doing before, check your email every day, go on Canvas, make a to-do list. I think it's kind of hard to stay motivated in a time like this, and this is kind of what I think our staff is here to help with, but they need to keep doing the same things that they were doing all semester.
One of the questions that, and I think Tara does and the rest of the staff do too, is when we're talking with students and just touching base with them about how they're doing academically, is we'll ask, you know, physically, you know, are you exercising? Are you know, what does your day look like? Just checking in to see what they have. And, you know, those answers tell a lot of how they're doing. You know, they wouldn't probably necessarily share just outright, "Oh, I'm really struggling." But when you hear somebody say, "Oh, it's hard for me to get out of bed," or things like that, or, you know, students saying, "Well, this is my routine. I get up at 9 and then I go to the field and I do," you know, and you're like, okay, you can kind of read between the lines. So really just trying to ask those type questions to get a gauge on where they're at has been really helpful too.
What are some things that you guys have learned just about your jobs during this time? Because I'm sure there's a lot of new like strategies and maybe just new observations.
For me, I learned that I really enjoy seeing and talking to my student athletes face to face. I've been trying to call everybody, and it's just really not the same. And I've learned that I enjoy coming to work, and I enjoy the interaction with my student athletes. I enjoy our staff's interaction, and I really miss that. And I've learned a little bit about myself through this process, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there is a lot coming at us. And so for me, with my role as director, one of the things that I really feel like is a top priority for me is just to be a resource and available to the staff first, so that they can know what to communicate if there's any changes that have been made with classes or the schedule or this or that. And so that's really been something for me that is important in general when you're a director or whatever of any department, but especially now everyone's remote, and so making sure and working really hard to stay connected with the staff, be available when they need you, when they're asking questions, because not only the students have questions, but so do our staff, and so do our coaches. And so really trying to be that, like, try to be stable and be available, and just help provide that motivation even among us. I mean, we're on week 2, the newness is starting to wear off, maybe some motivation, some loneliness, just tired. You just kind of feel weary. I think for me, because my husband works, so we kind of have to kind of help each other throughout the day, switching off between our different tasks for our jobs, aka taking care of our children. Our other job, there's no real break between that. So that's been a challenge for me personally. From the time I wake up around 5 in the morning until I collapse into bed around 10 at night, it's a continuous thing of just trying to help meet needs, answer questions, take care of people. And I love it, but it just kind of all blends together, which is a little bit tiring and draining. So it's it's been a big adjustment, and how to be effective in all those different areas has definitely been something I'm learning. I haven't learned it yet.
Yeah, it's definitely unique because there's no real clear-cut break in your day because of, like, it's not like you can just, all right, this time of day I go to the gym and it's a different room, or I go to a restaurant with some friends, or I have some event with my kids somewhere or something like that. It's all maintained in that same spot, so you feel like you have to, this is the same event, there's like this is the same thing,
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
What did you say, Tara?
Groundhog Day.
Yes, that's what we keep joking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What have you found to be the biggest thing to help you guys stay focused or motivated, and what's kind of a trick that you think you could share for other staff members or students?
For me, it's just getting out of the house. I come to work every day, and that provides a great a place for me to work and focus, and kind of like what we were saying, like some separation in my life. So I've tried to recommend that to a lot of my student athletes. Just find a place to work that you're able to focus and get your work done. School doesn't take 40 hours a week, so I think it's important. Schedule time to get your work done, but then also schedule in really fun stuff to do. So that's what I've tried to do. Like, okay, in the morning, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to get my job done. And then I'm going to have fun with my kids, the rest of the day. And then unfortunately, I jump on my computer once they go to bed, and I work from like 9 to 11 at night, which isn't ideal. But I think just having that balance in your life where you're working, but then you're also having as much fun as you possibly can, given the circumstances.
So for me, one of the things, I just thrive on routine. I think most people do. I mean, our kids, we try to keep them on as much of a routine as possible. And so, yeah, I just said, okay, this is what it's going to be. This is our situation that we're in. And so my husband and I had to talk about his work expectations as well, because he teaches in Duval County, and they have to do all this online stuff. And so we just kind of developed a schedule and a routine that worked for us. Kids are relatively unpredictable. Sometimes they nap, sometimes they don't, sometimes whatever. And so, I just have a routine about my day that I try to do and take care of. And so it helps with Andy and I, because we know, like, expectations of when he's going to be left alone to be able to get things done, and then when I'm going to be left alone to be able to get things done, or if I need to bring my computer out because I'm having virtual office hours because he has a conference call. I think the biggest thing for us is just communication. And then, just letting our kids know that, it's been interesting trying to explain. My 4-year-old calls it the virus. Everything's because of the virus. That she can't go to school because of the virus, that mommy and daddy have to work at home because of the virus, and so just explaining to her that I'm not neglecting her or her sister by being on my phone looking just at social media. Like, I have emails to respond back to, and so I'll explain her mommy's working, she has to work from home because of the virus. So just trying to, do that is something that it's been working. I mean, we're on week 2, and it's been a better week because we've learned from week 1 of what not to do and different schedules and routines to set up for us to make our family successful. Cause we're really we're all in the same place and we're all in this together.
What have you guys done as a staff to communicate and stay sharp?
So we still do have weekly staff meetings. And I felt like I wasn't like in the dark ages with technology, but I definitely had some catching up to do. And there's great resources that UNF does provide. And obviously one of them is Zoom. And so I feel like for the past week, I've been trying to figure out how to do. We were talking about maybe calling it study hall, but then we can't really monitor study hall. So then we're now it's transitioned to, these are really virtual office hours. And so it's just a reoccurring meeting that's every day. And so making sure the students and the coaches know that, normally this time of year, we'd have students stopping by our office, or we'd have scheduled meetings, and we'd be working on, talking about their current classes, but then now working on their summer and fall schedules, because that's coming up. Registration's coming up for that on April 13th. So in a sense, setting up a place for them virtually to stop by our offices has been one thing that we're trying to nail down and we're getting closer on figuring out how to make that work with the technology and different hosts and this and that. And then we're doing the social media campaign where we just are showing our new normal, our routines, encouraging the students. I've gotten some good feedback from students for that. And then this week we're just talking about what we're doing, when we're not working, that is making us happy, and what we're reading and looking at and whatnot. So that's something. And then just talking about just how, that's the biggest part about our staff meetings, is we just share about things that have been happening, different top trends that have been coming up through our conversations with students. Or, if we have different resources that we feel like would be beneficial to share with each other, but also with our students. Just, trying to just even connect as a staff, because that really does matter, because then that also helps us be more effective with our students as well.
What are some of the challenges for students that you would project, maybe with either those that are graduating and going into the workforce, or do you think there's going to be any weird transition back to normal classes when that happens, or people are going to be like, all right, I've done school for 18 years and I know what it's like?
I think for kids that are graduating and don't want to come back, like these spring sports student athletes, I feel for them a little bit, because unemployment is so high in the economy. Who knows what's going to happen with it? So I've encouraged everybody to come back and play, but obviously everybody's in a different situation. But I think that's probably going to be a big struggle. And then I do think everything will go back to normal. I don't necessarily think this is our new normal. I think hopefully by summer B, but at least the fall, we'll have our student athletes back. Everything will look as it did before, but I think we'll be stronger and better for what we've all kind of been through.
What's one kind of thing that you've seen a student do that you thought was pretty cool, or an idea or something that they brought up to you?
I don't know if I've had a student athlete necessarily share anything that they've been doing, but I think one great idea that I've seen floated around are just ways that student athletes can help. And I would encourage anybody who's listening to this to kind of think of ways that you can help your community, whether that be the teddy bear in the window, or like we've been playing with chalk on our driveway. Like, I know it's really silly and simple, but I think finding ways that you can give back or share some happiness and some joy during this. So for student athletes, especially the ones who have like a big following, you know, use your platform to post something funny or inspirational, or even try and raise money would kind of be my suggestion, and things that I've seen out there that I think is pretty cool.
All right. Anything else you guys want to add? Whether it's commenting about the experience so far or just encouragement?
I think your podcast is pretty cool, Brock. And thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. I mean, we're all learning this together. And I think that, as we've talked about, there's a lot that we've taken for granted that I think will be not once we get back. And I mean, we're going to be talking about this for years, you know, and I think it's going to be really neat in some ways because we're in this together, like all of us are students, our staff. And so I think that that will even make our relationship stronger with our students because we're just all learning. And I mean, this has never happened before. And so it's definitely, I had a coach write me an email back and he's like, oh, the stories we're going to be telling 5 years from now, you know, and I have to remind myself of that this is going to end, and even reminding the students that. And but like Tara said, you know, what can you do now? And just really soaking in these things. And I'm sure some of the parents who have their kids home, I mean, they would not have envisioned that they would have their college student home for this amount of time, like in their house, like, you know, if they're hopefully practicing social distancing. So I think that is hard in a lot of ways, but also something that is probably such an amazing blessing that you couldn't have planned, you know, nobody really planned. So, and even for us, I mean, how can I complain about getting to spend time with my husband and my 2 kids? I mean, I'll never have this time back. And I've gotten to do things with my kids that I haven't ever had time to do in the 4 years that I've been a mom. And that's something that I'm forever grateful for. Yet I still also get to do a job, you know, and I don't feel like I'm not like hanging out at my home while all my coworkers are in the office. Like we're all, you know, in our places we need to be. And so that's the thing for me, is just taking away from all this is being intentional with where you are, you know, whether it be when you're working or when you're with your family. And like Tara said, you know, being focused, doing what you need to do, and then moving to, you know, directing your attention to, you know, the next thing, which is whether it be your family, being engaged there and just trying to have as much fun as you can, or helping out in your community. I know we have a number of people at the church I go to who are younger, and they're delivering groceries to older people. And I think that's a huge thing that people can do and still feel relatively safe and whatnot. So I think we have time to do that. I mean, we're busy because we're adjusting, but in 3 weeks, we're gonna have a lot of time because we've the newness, like I said, has been wearing off, and we're kind of getting in the groove with classes or work or this or that. And so how to be intentional with that and stay motivated, I think will be the biggest thing I'm interested to hear about from our students and our staff too.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on, and thank you for sharing about this. Obviously, it's a historical event too that we will be referring to, and it's a historical event for the podcast, our first Zoom interview as well. So thank you for your patience at the start of it too, to get going. All right,
Thanks,
Jenny Barth and Tara Sunquist, thank you guys. Thanks again for the interview. Thank you for taking time in between work calls, emails, responsibilities, and of course, taking care of your house and kids and everything else that goes on with the current situation. Thank you for listening to this edition. Once again, we continue to roll on with this next week. Please stay safe and continue to do your best to contribute and stay healthy.